What's up YouTube? Welcome to Automotive Life, and this is Dealer Confessions. This video series is all about me answering all the good, honest, ugly, bad, brutal truth of being a car dealer. Now, I've taken a lot of your questions from Instagram, so if you haven't followed us already, make sure you go to automotive.life and follow us and go ahead and message me there if you have any questions. Also, if you can message me down below in the comment section, I personally answer every single one of your questions. Also, if you can, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. This definitely helps us with the YouTube algorithm to reach more people like you guys to share some automotive knowledge and help grow our channel, which we truly appreciate it. So without any more shameless plugging, let's get into the video. Okay, the first question is from Jess from Houston. Can you rent out a dealer plate? This is 100% no. If anybody's doing it right now, please stop. It's technically illegal and you are 100% liable for whatever happens with your dealer plate. So if you're a dealer right now and you have one of your friends driving your car, one of his cars with your dealer plate, if he crashes into anybody, if he hits a busload full of nuns, if he gets coked out with a bunch of strippers and crashes into a building, you are on the hook for it. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, I won't say the dealer's name, but it's a friend of mine here in Las Vegas. About 6 months ago, it was on TMZ, there was a yellow Lamborghini Huracan that was flipped over on the strip. That was with one of my friend's dealer plates. This guy took this car from somebody that wasn't making their payments anymore, so it wasn't even his car. They put a dealer plate on it so he can look like a big shot. He drove it around Las Vegas, he got drunk, crashed into the Caesars wall. Caesars sued him, the people that he hit sued him, and then the bank that actually owned the Lamborghini sued my friend. He's still in litigation 6 months later, so you do not want to be a part of that. It's not worth the headache. Please do not do that. Okay, the next question is from Rig in California. Is it hard to get a dealer's license? It's kind of a trick question. It's not really that hard to get a dealer's license, but it is extremely hard to run a dealership and to set it up correctly. So if you followed one of my videos, you can see I talk about how to get a dealer's license and everything else. It doesn't seem that bad, but once you start setting everything else up, it is kind of overwhelming. So I really recommend people go ahead and actually work for a small independent dealership for about a year or two, work for a franchise store, get the kind of flow of the dealership underneath your belt, get that experience before you even try to attempt this, because once you get your license, it's very, very quick to lose a lot of money very fast. And that's probably, I'd say, the biggest thing that puts a lot of dealers out of business is just the fact that they don't know all these little things that come up later down the road and bite them in the ass. So, you know, you could take, I have one of my classes, if you want to take one of the classes, or like I said, go ahead and try to work for a small independent dealer or a franchise store, kind of work your way up from there. Okay, the next question is from Russ from Virginia. What is the craziest trade-in that we've ever gotten? Now, without doing a massive long video, because I've got so many hilarious things that people have traded in through the years, I can literally make an hour-long video just of that. So I'm going to tell you two just to keep the series going. So the first one is going to be a vehicle. The second one is going to be non-vehicle. So we had a guy call us up. We had a Dodge Challenger that we got from Hertz. Really good deal. Had a little bit of front end damage. I pretty much stole it from the Hertz auction, put it back up on there, and had it up for sale. I think we had it up for like 27 grand, but I think we're into it like maybe $18,000. The guy was like, well, I have an unusual trade-in. He's like, are you interested? And I was like, sure, what do you have? He's like, well, I have a Bell helicopter. And I've never seen, you know, I don't even know what a Bell helicopter was. So at that time, I was like, okay, well, can you send me some pictures and whatever information you got? And basically what he told me was a friend of his owed him some money. And so he flew this thing into his backyard and took it as collateral because his friend was needed the money for something. And the guy never came back and never paid him off. So now this guy's got this helicopter sitting in his backyard. So, you know, the way he talked about it made it sound like it was a long time. So I called my friend that owns a helicopter rental company here in town, and I'm like, what is a Bell helicopter? You know, is it worth anything? Is it a big dollar value? And he says they're just a basic helicopter. They're nothing really fancy. He doesn't really deal with them. So he said that he has a flying school that buys a lot of those here in town. He goes, he'll send me his information, just close the deal and let me know whatever I get it for, and we'll see if we could sell it. So I asked him for pricing. I looked online. I saw like kits, Bell kits for like 20 grand. I didn't know what that was. So I said, okay, whatever, let's just go ahead and make the deal. So I called the guy up and I was like, look, if you bring me $10,000 and the helicopter, I'll go ahead and take it. So the guy was like, Okay, no problem. He's like, it's done. Calls me up an hour later, I can't get it out of my backyard. I don't know how to move it. So I had to call my friend and say, how do I do this? He's like, you have to take the blades off, fold them back, do it this way. Everything has to be done a certain way because it's a safety thing. Keep track of each bolt, put it where it is, take pictures, bags, blah, blah, blah. So I send my guys down there. We literally take the blades off this helicopter, put them on side, wrap them up, lift this thing onto a flatbed, drag it out of his backyard. Get it back to the dealership. I told him since we had to do a little extra work, he's got to bring an extra like $3,500 down instead of the 10. He brings me the $13,500, gives me the thing, gives me the paperwork he has with it, takes his car, takes off. Figured, okay, good, massive deal. So I'm thinking in my head, well, worst case scenario, if I can't sell this thing for at least 10 grand, I'll have this amazing looking thing I can sit on the side of my building as advertisement, you know? So I'm already thinking about tearing it apart and putting electric motors so the helicopter thing will spin, put lights on and everything else. So my friend introduced me to the gentleman that had the helicopter rental place here in Vegas, came down and looked at it, and he's like, oh, this is a great helicopter. He's like, this is a Bell something, something, something. He goes, if the blades are good, he goes, the blades are 20 grand. And I'm like, the blades are $20,000? He's like, yeah. He goes, the blades are $20,000. He goes, everything is scheduled by hours and time-wise, so we don't know how much this thing could be worth. It could be worth 50, could be worth 80. He goes, it just depends on what the equipment is and everything else. So the guy came back, looked at everything, and he's like, you know what? He goes, it's actually in really good shape. He goes, but it hasn't been serviced in over a year. And I was like, okay. I was like, so what do you think it's worth? You know, what are you willing to offer me? And he's like, well, you know, it's usually worth about 70 grand, but since we got to service it and there's other stuff I'd like to find out about it, he goes, I'd like to offer you $50,000 for it. I literally rolled out of my chair. I literally thought I was getting ready for like a $10,000 offer, maybe a $5,000 offer. At this point, I was already thinking about putting lights on it and sticking in front of my dealership. As soon as he told me that, I literally jumped out of the chair and I was like, you know what? I really don't want to get rid of it, but you can have it. Congratulations, you guys got yourself a new helicopter. So once they fixed it all up, they actually took us out and flew us around in it, which is very cool, but I had no idea. So that was probably one of the craziest vehicle ones. Now the second part of the trade-in story is I am in the city of Las Vegas, so we have a lot of entertainment workers that work here. And what I mean by that are basically strippers and hookers. So we had a Lexus up for sale and we had a dancer from a local club come in and she really wanted it. And I told her, okay, you know, you need X amount of dollars down because of your credit and your job time, because she couldn't prove her income. So she needed $5,000 down. So she had about $3,500 and she's like, okay, well, can I get it with $3,500? I was like, if you leave it, I'll keep it for you for 2 weeks, but you need to still come up with the rest of the money. So anyways, back and forth talking for about, 20, 30 minutes, and she starts asking me like all these really weird questions. Are you single? What do you do for fun? What do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I know where she's going with this. So I just kind of let her ramble on and see what was going to happen. And she basically told me, she's like, well, what are some things you like? What's something that turns you on? And I kind of laughed and I was like, you know what really turns me on, what really gets me excited? And she's like, what? And I was like, money, pay me. And so pretty much after that, she got upset that I wouldn't take free lap dances instead of a down payment for a vehicle. But that's kind of some of the crazy stuff that we get for trade-ins. But like I said, I literally can do a whole hour video on trade-ins, but which we're going to save for the rest of the series because I got way more ones, or way more crazier ones too. So next thing we're going to talk about is, let's get to the next question. Okay, the next question is from Chan from Utah. What is the dumbest/stupidest car deal that you've ever done? Okay, so in full transparency, I have done quite a few dumb car deals. Any dealer tells you something different, he's full of shit. So this was right around 2008, 2009, when the economy pretty much tanked. A lot of people were losing their houses. They were leaving Vegas. It was a really crazy time. Well, we got a call from this woman. She was on her way to Florida. She needed a vehicle to get there. Her husband left her. It's just her and her 2 kids. She needs to get back there. She's looking for something good and affordable. So at that time, I had a 2008 Nissan Altima. It was a V6, leather interior. It was a nice car. I think I had it for sale for about 12 grand. And I told her that I could do like 13.5 out the door. She says, okay, that sounds good. She's like, do you take trade-ins? And I was like, yes, I do. I was like, what do you have? She's like, well, I have a classic car. I was like, oh, what is it? So she sent me pictures. It was a 1965 Shelby GT 350. So I told her if she could send me the VIN number and some pictures of where the VIN plate was and everything else. And she sent me the one underneath the hood because she didn't want to crawl under the firewall and underneath the car, which was fine. And sure enough, it was a real Shelby GT 350. I gave the number to my friend. He checked it. Everything checked out. So, you know, I was really excited. I'm like, okay, man, we're going to give you this Nissan Altima and we'll just trade you straight up across, you know. She started talking and she's like, you know what? I think the Mustang's worth more. You know, my ex-husband loved this car, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, you know, is the title in your name? Is it in his name? And she's like, no, it's in the old owner's name. We just never registered it. So I was like, okay, cool. I was like, well, how about if I throw in $3,000 extra to sweeten the deal? She's like, okay, that's fine. So I'm like thinking, great, I got me an extremely rare car, you know, like a $60,000 car for, you know, $15,000, you know. My Mustang friend that I sent the information to verify that it was a real Shelby was already calling me, telling me he's got people that are lined up. Now this particular Mustang was believed to be in a few photo shoots for some of the marketing advertisement for Ford during this time. So this Mustang was lost for quite some time. So they believe that this particular Mustang was that one. So, you know, the morning she was getting ready to drive to Florida, we dropped off the car. We bought the $3,000 and she's like, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm just going to write you a check for the car. I think I'm just going to sell the Mustang. And so at this point, I'm like chomping at the bit. I'm like, I'm never going to get a chance to buy one of these cars. I'm like, what is it going to take for me to get you, you know, to give me the car? And she's like, well, $10,000. I'm like, well, ma'am, the Nissan Altima is worth $13,000 plus the $3,000 I'm giving you. That's $16,000 total. She's like, no, I want $10,000 and the car. So at this point, I was scratching my head and I'm like, well, should I do it? You know, should I take my time, go through it, research it, do some more stuff? But I was extremely excited. I was kind of just not really thinking straight. And I was a lot younger than I was now. So I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead, let's just do it. So I told my guy, bring her the car, showed up with $10,000, gave her the 10 grand. We got the car, we towed it back to the shop. Beautiful. The car was extremely clean. You know, we checked the VIN, everything matched up, but the downfall was as we started going through the vehicle, a lot of the things that made a Shelby Cobra R, this thing didn't have it. It didn't have certain bolt holes, it didn't have certain pieces that were missing. Anyways, to make a long story short, they basically took a 65 tub and welded on the front end of this other vehicle that obviously was probably totaled on a track. And so she made two cars out of one. So we're like, okay, well, you know what, at least it's still worth 20 grand. Let me just go ahead and file for the title, you know, because the main body of the VIN, that's the most of the car. So we wanted to file for the correct title. We run the paperwork, car reported stolen. So cops came down, picked up the vehicle. That's even after I spent a few $1,000s fixing stuff up, getting some of the paintwork done, getting the seats redone. So make a long story short, I probably lost about $20,000 because I was too excited and too quick to make a move on a classic car that was one of my dream cars when I should have just took the time, did the research, and properly actually check out the vehicle. Okay, the next question is from Ted from Nevada. What is the fastest you've ever driven? The fastest I've ever driven is 168 miles an hour, and it was on my 2015 Yamaha R1. But one of my goals for this year is to reach 200 miles per hour before 2021. So we'll see how that goes. There's a few racetracks I'll be visiting later this year, so I'm hoping I can make that one happen. Next question is from Nick in Dallas. What is your favorite car to do buy here, pay here? Pretty much, I don't really have a favorite car, but there's a few. If you were to ask me as far as a brand goes, my favorite buy here, pay here would probably be Hyundai's because they're so cheap and the maintenance is pretty much, that's even probably cheaper than the cars itself. They don't break down a lot. They're good, solid vehicles. You can get a much newer car than you can for like a Civic for the exact same price. And when you do buy here, pay here, your whole goal is to get something that's dependable. So as long as your vehicles are on the road, your clients are still making those payments. Therefore, you're making more money on it. So to ensure my portfolio, I would definitely, if I could only pick one brand, I guess I would pick Hyundai. If I had to pick one car, it would probably be a Hyundai Sonata or a older Chevy Tahoe, 05 and below. Those are my favorite SUVs of all time. They just don't die and they hold their value. Next question is from Clark in Seattle. If you were to go back in time and tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself? Well, if I could go back in the time, I would tell myself basically to don't even mess with banks, work with some hedge funds and some other portfolios, and do buy here, pay here. When you do buy here, pay here, you are the bank. You make the decisions. You're able to roll the deal. You basically control your own destiny. When I first started, I was kind of cutting edge because I built my dealership around the banks. And I preach this. If you watch some of my other videos or if you've seen me speak before in other places, I always talk about build your dealership around the bank's programs. Not what you want, but what the banks actually buy. Well, now in 2020, these banks ain't buying shit. They don't want to buy any cars. They want to give you insane fees. They want to charge you all kinds of money for different things. It's not as good as what it used to be. So if I could go back in time and work on my buy here, pay here, I would be self-sufficient right now. I wouldn't even have to do anything. I could literally just sit back and collect payments and not have to worry about anything. So if I was going to say anything, that would definitely be it. Good question, or great question, by the way, Clark. Thank you so much for that one. The next one is from Jerome in Milwaukee. What is your opinion on floor plans? Okay, so this one is one of my favorite topics. So floor plans is definitely a double-edged sword. It could be a blessing and also a curse. And what I mean by that is floor plans are like lines of credit that what us dealers use and rental car companies and everything else to buy more vehicles. So we can have more inventory to hopefully get you to come buy a car from us. So they're a great thing because they give you the opportunity to get the cars, but they love to get you stuck. It's almost like a payday loan store. The curtailments just keep adding up, the fees keep adding up, and they are literally the devil. So my honest opinion is you need to get one even if you don't need it, just so you can build your credit. But I would never go above 20%, almost like a credit card, because once you get into that pitfall and you're paying all these fees and all this money, they will literally bleed you dry. I remember when at our peak, we had probably a little over like $1.5 million in flooring between Next Gear and AFC. And we were purchasing cars, between $10,000 and $20,000. Well, each car that you see on somebody's lot, imagine having each one costing you $500 to $1,000 a month. So if you got 100 cars, excuse me, 100 cars or even 50 cars, and each one's $500 to $1,000, that could be anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000. That's a lot of money. And the worst part of it is only maybe about 65 to 70% of that is actually going towards principal. The rest is your fees and your interest. And that's even if you have excellent credit. So if you can afford not to start off with the floor plan, I would strongly recommend it. I would get one just so you're building the relationship, because floor plans are really funny. Most credit card companies, once you get a credit card and you start using it, they want to give you lower rates and give you a bigger thing so you can basically get yourself more into debt so they can take care of you and basically make more interest off of you. Floor plans, if you use too much, they try to shrink your line or they just try to charge you more fees. So if you use your line a lot and you're not really doing a lot of your own cash cars and you go for an advance, let's say 6 months down the road, they're not going to give it to you. They're going to be like, well, Mr. Smith, you're running 80% of your credit line and you're always late on your payments and everything else. No, we're not going to give you the extension. We're actually going to lower your line and we're going to charge you more fees. Oh, you don't want to do that? You don't want to pay it? Okay, well, fine. We're just going to take your line off. You got 30 days to write us a check for whatever $600,000 that's on your line. Pay us now or go pound sand. And the other thing that's kind of bad about flooring lines is, especially like right now, Next Gear here in Vegas just got burned for about another $2 million from these two other dealers. So once the floor lines start getting screwed, they start tightening up just like the banks. So now these dealers that are used to having like a $500,000 line or $1 million line, they're all going to start getting cut back. and eventually they're going to wean everybody down to the bare minimums. And if you need $1 million to survive, to float your inventory, and they only cut it by half, you're pretty much squeezing these people out of business, and that's what they do. So, like I said, floor plans, a great thing, but also a very, very bad thing. So get one, don't use it. If you can, stay away from it. You'll be much better. I'd rather see you guys with 10 cars on your lot than 80 and be in debt. Alrighty, next question is from 2Tex. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry, but it's just the number 2 and then TEX. What if you live in a small town? How would you do your dealership? Okay, so small towns, it's very unique. Big cities, we have traffic, we have lots of flow, different types of people. You can scale your business model very, very easily. When you live in a small town, it's a little bit different, so I need more information. So if you're in a small town, but let's say your town is run like, let's say you have a lumber mill in your small town, and it employs about 80% of the people in your town, then I would strongly recommend you do bank financing and do more affordable cars and start out small, because if for some reason that mill were to ever shut down, you could still finance other people. But if you did buy here, pay here, and the mill shut down, you would lose 80% of your income from day one, and you'd pretty much be screwed. Where these other people, hopefully they'll find other jobs. And that's the other thing. When a big city loses a plant, it hurts a little bit, but there's more jobs around it to kind of make something going. But when you live in a small town and that one big factory closes, it's devastating for the local economy. So you need to find out in your market what is working and what is there. Now, if you already see 2, 3 small dealers, watch what they're doing. Maybe ask to work for them for the weekend just to kind of get some information from them. See if they actually sell cars. See if they do anything. A lot of these dealers, they're just there because there's always a need for a small dealership. People need cars. That's just the way the world works. So you opening up, believe it or not, won't be hurting anybody. There's more than enough pie to go around. But if you talk to these guys, and these guys are not selling cars, and they're talking about how there's no jobs, there's nobody there, their portfolio is awful, and they're getting ready to get out of the business, then you probably shouldn't open up in that town. Now, there's nothing wrong with living in a small town, but I say usually when you start your business, I would recommend you go to a bigger city to get a bigger sample size of sales and everything else. So if there's a bigger city, maybe an hour down the road, that's maybe got, instead of like, if you live in a town with 10,000, maybe a town that has 100,000, that's big enough where you can at least kind of get the ropes and kind of see how things are going. And then if it goes well, then I recommend you making a small satellite store in your local town, because small towns are usually going to have low rent, they're going to have low overhead. You can get employees for really cheap because there's not a whole lot of jobs there, so you can get 1 or 2 good people. So now you have your big store in the big city that's making you constant money, and then you have your satellite store where you live, so this way you're growing your market, and who knows, maybe things may go well, maybe you can build it up into something really, really good. It just depends on your market. So even if you're in a small town, don't be afraid to take a chance and get out there and try something. Okay, the next question is actually really, really good. This is from David from Orange County. How do you sell cars in 2020 during the pandemic and a very bad economy? Well, David, that is the $1 million question. Right now, I get more calls about that than anything else. I've seen dealers that normally sell 50 to 100 cars slash it down to about 10 to 30 cars. Even personally, our numbers that we're doing here in Vegas are not that great. We're doing about 25 to 35% of what we're normally doing. Now, we're pretty fortunate and pretty blessed because the stuff I'm going to tell you right now is what's helping us. So the only way to get through this really down economy and this bad time and to reach people during this pandemic is marketing. Now, I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. If you don't believe in marketing, you are a fool. If 90% of your budget is not in marketing, you're literally doing everything wrong. What I mean by marketing is actual real marketing. If I don't believe in billboards, but in your town, if you got one, it's better than not having a billboard. If you guys want to pay $4,000 for a magazine where they print it once a week and they put your cars in there, hell, that's better than doing anything, but I don't recommend that one. The easiest way to target people is one thing. Everybody has it in their phone or in their hand 24/7 is their phone. I do Facebook and Instagram marketing non-stop. We spend an absurd amount of money on marketing because we know it reaches people. We see the messages, we count them. When you're getting $1,500 to $3,000 messages every month, that gives your salesmen plenty of opportunity to close some of these people that you normally wouldn't reach, that are not out driving around, that are not out shopping for vehicles. You need to be in their face. So right now, if you don't have a Facebook or any type of social media presence, you need to start right now. You need to grab your camera, you need to walk around your cars, and you'll see some of my videos. I'll post a few of them here. I may even pause it and play a few little snippets. I do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's not that hard. You literally get your phone, you get your sales guy. Hey, Bob, tell me about this car. This is a great family car. It's a 2018, whatever, Chrysler 300, blah, 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 blah. Deal of the century. Great. Put that on there, put it on Facebook. Put $20 behind it, boost it, let it pop up there, let it start getting some more people in there. There's money out there, you just gotta drive it in. So after you post that video of you walking around your car talking about it, you need to make that, put it on Instagram, put $5 a day behind that one, post these ads. It's really not that hard. And don't pay for all these people's weird classes on how to do all this marketing. If you sign up for Facebook ads, there's actually a link right there that's called Facebook Academy. You can literally take it and you can take all the classes to see what you're doing. But it's very simplistic, it's very easy to do. And you need to be original. Do something funny. So once you get started, anything is better than nothing. Just start putting out those ads. But once you start getting good, start thinking of something funny, something creative, because you want to build your brand. I've seen so many dealers that blend in with everybody else because they're that one little dealer in a line of 70 other dealers, and there's nothing distinguishing between that. A and B auto sales, A and C auto sales, A and D auto sales, like nothing. You guys are all selling the same shit, same cars to the same banks. So if you're not working on branding yourself, if you want it to be you, if you want to hire a model, if you want to get an animated character and make fun of this thing and make that your spokesperson, go for it. You need to do that. You need to find some way to be relevant in this time, because right now there's a lot of people that are going to be going out of business because they're maxed out on their flooring lines. All the banks are not lending, and pretty soon the piper is going to come calling and they're going to take all these cars. And if you're not marketing and you're not out there ahead of everybody else, you're going to be one of those people that's going to basically go away with the wayside. So like I said, if you ask me my professional opinion as of right now, if you're not spending at least $5 grand a month in social media marketing, you're a fool. So, and that's just the minimum. If you're a bigger store and you can afford $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, do it. I guarantee you'll see results. It's what we do. It works great. And then you can actually track real life people. And once you get better with your marketing, you can assess more of how you want to do marketing, start working on your ads to target specific people to bring your ad revenue costs down, and then your conversion rate's a lot higher. But it all starts with posting that one ad. Like I said, take your phone, take your sales guy, have him talk about whatever car, take that, put it on Facebook, $20 behind it for the day, and just let it ride and just watch how many people contact you. Once you get your first few messages, you're going to be calling me up like, Lucky, you were right, this is great. I had no leads this week, and just this week I put $20 in one ad and I got 5 leads. I'm like, it's a miracle, it's marketing. So, you know, if you're in a weird area right now and it's really bad, don't worry about it. It's going to get tough. It's tough for everybody right now, but just start working on your marketing. That is pretty much the crucial thing. And there's nothing wrong with old school door knocking. A lot of people are lazy. When I see a hustler salesman, like there's this guy that works at the Chevy dealership, this guy's a stud. Every Sunday he goes to Walmart and I see him because sometimes I go shopping there. He's handing cards out. He's putting cards in the cars. This guy's been doing this for probably about 3-4 years, but he gets people steady. You know, the old salesman, there was no social media. They had to go out and, hi, what's your name, Bob? Hi, Bob. My name's whatever, you know, here's my card. If you need a new Chevy, call me. They're looking like, I don't need a new car, but guess what? 3 months from now, when their car blows up, maybe they got your card, maybe they don't. But if Bob left a good enough impression and kept knocking on people's doors, he's going to get people. I watched him pull people off of bus stops in front of Walmart, which is pretty funny. So, you know, don't be afraid. Don't be lazy. Marketing is the key. Here's another really good question. This one is from George from Salt Lake. If being a dealer is so much fun, why did you sell your dealership? Like I said, this one's going to be kind of brutally honest, and I'm going to be straight to the point. I was burnt out. I love the industry. I love what I do. I've been in the car industry my whole life. Now, very few people go from high school till their, mid-30s doing the exact same job. And all my friends, I am the only person I know that's been doing the same thing since high school. Most people have switched careers several times. They've been in and out of college, trade schools, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're all trying to find our way in this world. So, as I started doing this dealership thing, I loved it and I flourished at it and it was great and I enjoyed it. And then I was always like, well, what else can we do? Let's do rental cars. Let's do the shop. But these last 2 years really put a damper on things with the banks. They got extremely strict. They got, they took all the fun out of being a dealer. When I was used to it, it was easy. I mean, we could push deals through. We could talk to the bankers, make a deal happen. Now you're talking to computers. We don't even get to talk to anybody. Most of the bankers have all been fired. Everything's automated now. You got to put your numbers in the matrix and pray to God you get an answer. So it's almost like sticking a coin in a slot machine. You could come up a winner, could get somebody approved, or the machine can come back and say, we don't like this person, and kick it out. Where before we can be like, oh, hey, you know what? Mr. Smith does have bad credit, but look, he just got a new job. He's working hard. He's paying his bills. We should give him another shot. The human side is gone. That's it. So when it took that element out of it, that was one of the things I really enjoyed. So it made it a lot tougher to sell cars. Now, did it make it impossible to sell cars? No. We're still doing it right now. But I was spending about 4 times the amount of time being there at the dealership. So I've been working pretty much 7 days a week since I was 18. And I'm not talking like typical, douchey people like I work sunrise to sundown. No, I literally worked 7 days a week all the time and I am burnt out. So, as of the last year and a half, I started this YouTube channel for fun. I spent more time trying to show my friends what to do so they didn't burn their dealerships. And this all kind of came around as I was teaching this other dealership about how to set up their stuff. The owner asked me if I wanted to sell my dealership to him, if I wanted to do some consulting for him. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what, maybe it's the time. Maybe it's the best time for my move. So I enjoy doing this. I really do. So I'm actually going to be doing coaching in Atlanta this week. And, I never would have been able to do this unless I actually would have made that step and sold my dealership. Do I regret it? Sometimes, but I know that, I can always get back into it. That's the best thing. The things you're going to learn on this channel, even if you don't get a dealership or even if you do get a dealership, these tips and tricks and some of the stuff I'm going to show you guys, you can make money whether you're flipping cars in your house, getting a dealership, or even going full franchise. All these concepts work the same, but once you have the knowledge, you know the path to which way to go, so you could always do it down the future. So, like I said, I do love the industry. I'm never probably going to get out of it, but I want to step back from being an owner-operator and being stuck there 24 hours a day. I want to travel a little bit. I want to help out some other people. I want to see where this YouTube thing's going because, in the last few weeks, I've gotten tons of messages about doing outside consulting, about doing some videos. There's some TV stuff I'm working on. I can't really say nothing right now, but there's some big companies that wanted to do some really big promotions as far as talking about cars, teaching about cars, actually doing hands-on stuff where we're actually going to teach people how to physically work on cars, which was pretty cool. So, this is some of the stuff, if I was a dealer, I couldn't do this. I gotten calls from Motor Trend back in the day to sponsor a show, to host a show. I couldn't do it because I was stuck here. They're like, hey, we're going to have a car show in Vegas. We don't have anybody. Would you like to come? You'd be on the camera for 4 hours, blah, blah, blah. It was a huge event. It was a major thing, but it was tax season. And I was right there, and this is when everybody had their money. I was buying cars, and I was writing papers, and I couldn't leave my dealership, and I missed that opportunity. And this was about 4 years ago. So I could have been at where I'm at now 4 years ago, and who knows where I've been as far as followers and subscribers and everything else. So, I think this is the right thing for me. I love it. I enjoy it. I love helping you guys, which is really cool. So another shameless plea, if you do like this information, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and comment down below. Like I said, I'll answer all your questions. And that's pretty much the honest truth. But thank you very much for the question. It's a great question. Next question is from Tony from New Jersey, or excuse me, Tom from New Jersey. Do you ever get fake money? And how do you tell? Okay, in this business, get ready for it. You're gonna get burned with a lot of fake dollar bills. Once you get good, you can actually feel the texture of the bills. You can see if they're fake or real. But in the meantime, get a marker and get a bill scanner. It'll save you a lot of headache. I think it's more prevalent here in Vegas because there's so many scams and there's so many people trying to rip off the casinos. That's why we see so much of the fake money. But just be very, very careful. Get, like I said, a marker pen's like $3 online. The bill checkers are literally like 25 bucks. It's a UV light. They show you how to do it. And then once you get good, you can actually feel the actual texture of the paper. Here's another good question. This one is from, it's actually anonymous, so they got it underneath there. So the name is actual anonymous is what it's listed under. Do you morally have any issues selling used cars? Great question. So I'll be honest with you, if you sell crappy cars, you are a piece of shit. Now, there are cars out there where we don't have a crystal ball, that you never know what's going to happen. But you try to help people as much as you can, but without financially destroying yourself. So all of our cars, we service them, we go through them just to make sure they're okay. I make my sales guys take them home. I make my mechanics take them home. We drive them around a little bit because here in Las Vegas, we have to smog them. So we have to drive them 30, 40 miles to smog them. And usually within that time period, we see if there's anything wrong. And then with every car I sell, I give them a 30-day warranty. So if anything happens that's not their fault, we cover it. So I strongly recommend when you start out, try to do this. Now, if the motor blows up, I know it's going to be hard for you to come up with the money for the motor or transmission or bigger expenses, but try to do your best to work with the people. A lot of times, when we first started, we said we would pay 50% of all parts and labor, which in all reality, you could charge people $100 in labor and you could charge them 50 bucks what your mechanic charges you. But at least you're giving them some sort of option and you're taking care of them. Never blow off a customer. I'm going to tell you that right now. You do not want a 2.2 rating on Google. We were so excited that we had a 4.9 rating for the longest time because we kept calling our customers. My car is having an issue. My car is overheating. My tires are flat. My master mechanic said this car is a piece of shit. You're going to get that. That's just part of the business. But as long as you are upfront and you tell them, like when we sign paperwork, I actually tell people, hey, you're buying this car as is. This is how it is, where it is, anything else. If you have any issues, come talk to me and I'll help you. Not saying I'm going to fix everything underneath the sun, but I'll try to help you as best I can. And you're buying a used car. If you want a brand new car, you can go right over there. Ford will sell you a brand new Ford Fusion for $50,000. But you're buying a $10,000 car from us or a $5,000 car, whatever you're selling, make customers' expectations real. And then if it is a piece of shit car, don't sell it to them. You don't need the headache. I know you need the money, but let's just take the loss. Let's send it to the auction. Hopefully we'll get a better car next time. And start building that, especially if you're going to be doing buy here, pay here. The crappier the cars you put out, the worse your portfolio is. So one of the other things we do is we go out and we buy paper from other buy here, pay here dealers. And that's the one concept that slips a lot of these guys' minds. They buy the cars from the auction, they wash them, and when they sell them for top dollar at 29% interest. They don't fix shit. And then when the customer comes in and they're like, my car is acting up, this has issues, blah, blah, blah. They don't fix anything. They don't care because they want the car to repo so they can get it back instead of letting that customer make those payments to get yourself settled, to build your portfolio. So don't be those dealers. If it's a bad car, let it go. If it's got issues and you know it, don't sell it. Now, if it does happen, try to help them out, but don't put yourself in the poorhouse because like I said, things happen. Unfortunately, I have to tell some people no, it's going to suck. But if you do it quickly, it's like that tear off the Band-Aid thing. If you talk to them man to man and you say, look, I'm not going to fix this. You're bitching about a radio, but your radiator's leaking. I'll fix your radiator, but your radio, I don't care about. Try to do as much as you can to help them out. And as long as you put a line in the sand, most people will stay on the right side. But if you're kind of weak and you ignore them and you don't answer their calls, what do? They get angry. And then they start picking out everything that's wrong with the car. So when you finally get mad or they turn you to the DMV, they're going to have a list of like 70 things that they're going to want you to actually fix. So like I said, don't sell the junky cars. do the best you can. And morally, I don't feel bad. I sleep at night. I walk around the streets of Vegas. I don't have to worry about getting shot in my back or stabbed because I sold a bunch of crappy cars. So try to stay above that. Don't be that typical dealer. You don't want to be that sleazy scumbag. A lot of that stuff has gone away, especially because a lot of states implemented a lot of rules like us. I can't sell a car with a check engine light. You know, I know some states you can, but here you can't. But try to stay away from that. And like I said, you'll see the dividends in your reputation and the return customer base. Next question is from Felix in LA. Why do banks charge recourse? Good question. So pretty much what happened in the last few years is so much bad subprime paper has been floating around. So what I mean by subprime paper is basically everybody with bad credit. Most people you talk to will have 1, 2, sometimes 3 repos now, which is insane. And this is the majority of the United States, not the minority. The majority of the United States have at least 1 repo now because of the economy, the pandemic, all this stuff. So recourse is basically you're on the hook for 1 month, 2 months, however months you actually set up with the bank determines it. So now what the banks are doing is if they don't like the fee, like they don't want to charge you too much because they don't want to scare you away. So instead of charging you a $3,000 fee to buy a $10,000 deal, they're going to charge you $1,000, but they're going to make you sign a 3-month recourse. What that means is that you are married to this customer for 3 months. You have to make sure that that customer makes all 3 monthly payments, because if they don't, and that bank wrote you a check for $10,000 and they miss the second payment, they're going to come knock on your door. They're going to ask you, we need our check for $10,000. And they're going to sit there and they're going to wait for you to write out your check for $10,000. You got to give it to them. And sometimes they're nice. They bring you the car. You have to pay the repo fee. Sometimes they don't give a shit. They're like, you know what? It's your car. You go get it. And so now you're out $10,000. You're out the vehicle because you have no idea where it's at. And now you got to go track it down and see what's going on. So recourse is a bad thing. If you ask me, I don't do more than 1 payment. I'd rather take a $1,500 fee than get a $800 fee with a 2-month recourse, because it's just not worth the risk, because they could crash it, they could total it, they could just disappear with it. I've seen it a million times. But to answer your question, Felix, that's the reason why they actually do this, is because they're leveraging their bet. They want to make sure that, if they don't scare you away with the bank fee, they want to kind of grab you and make you hold on to your paper. And it's all numbers. At the end of the year, they can skate out of, $10 million in negative paper if they make the dealers buy it back. But the thing is a lot of dealers are getting in trouble right now because the banks are coming back now and they're like, oh, well, you have 10 deals to buy back. I need a check for $120,000. And the dealers don't have it because sales are really bad. And then now even more people are going to be breaking recourse. They're going to be late on their payments, more buybacks, and it's just going to snowball into this ugly nightmare. So like I said, never do more than 1. Banks do it just as a way to try to fool you, to try to trick you. They'll give you a low fee, but whole time behind, they won't show you. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, I got this 3-month recourse that we're hiding from you. It's in the fine print. Very small in your deal's approval, but go ahead and sign for this low fee and we're going to tack on this. So be very careful. If you're a finance manager, watch for that. They're all sneaking it in now. They're all changing their documents, but that's pretty much it. But that's why banks do recourse. It's just a way for them to try to protect themselves against bad debt and bad paper. Okay, the next message is from Tesla from Oklahoma. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it, but basically she's asking, dealerships have a lot of moving parts. How do you keep track of everything? I currently work at a dealership now, and they're constantly losing cars, losing customers, losing money. Great question. It is extremely hard. I'll be honest with you. When I first started, I thought I was Mr. Do-it-all-yourself type of thing, and my ego was pretty big, and I was just like, I'm just going to bang it out and be organized. I have my phone with my lists. If I show you guys some of my list, it'd probably blow your mind. But one thing I'll tell you right now, in the very beginning, you need somebody to help you with. It doesn't have to be a business partner. It could be something as simple as a secretary or a friend or maybe your top sales guy. Somebody to help bounce ideas off of, some of the people to take some of the brunt and legwork away from you, because you're going to be running about 100 miles per minute from buying the cars, to doing the financing, to doing the paperwork, to making sure the payments are done, to keeping track of the inventory, to keeping recon down, to training your people, to doing the marketing. I mean, you literally have to wear about 30 hats as a owner operator. So I strongly recommend in the beginning getting at least one person to help you start this journey with, because when I did it, I literally did everything myself, and that's why I think one of the reasons why I burnt myself out and I worked 7 days a week, because I was so paranoid. Because you know, when you use your money, it's scary. Like, you could lose a lot of money very quickly, so it's very hard to give that trust to somebody else and put your money in somebody else's hands. But unfortunately, this is the way that businesses is. Once you get bigger, you're going to have a finance manager, you're going to have a sales manager. They're going to be making calls on your behalf. They're going to be pushing deals through that, you know, they need to push through. Sometimes you may not agree with it, but they're doing it because they either want to make more money, they want to make the business money, and it's just, you can't control it. Don't be a control Nazi. Start learning how to delegate now. The biggest thing I think when I see people, when they're very small mom and pops, is not knowing when to delegate. Because when you first start out, it's not that big deal. You got 4 or 5 cars, you're selling cars yourself, you're the salesman, finance manager, whatever else. But all of a sudden you get into this massive growth where maybe your next month you hit 45 cars. Now you're one person. And they don't know when to hire more people, because they're just like, well, no, I'll just keep it myself and I'll do it myself because I'm so used to doing it myself. Don't. You're going to make costly mistakes. I've signed a few contracts, not even like wrong. Like, one of my sales guys forgot to initial a contract. My fault, I did not check it. I got a $10,000 fine for the DMV because they classify that as a fraudulent contract. And there's people out there that will try to get free cars from you and making you rush through the paperwork to do this type of stuff. Don't do it. You will lose money. I've had sales guys where they forgot to mark down PIK payments. So the whole time I thought that the money was all received, they forgot to make a notation in the account saying that the PIK payment was made. They thought I knew, I thought they got it. Next thing you know, you're missing thousands of dollars just gone through. You need to keep track of your inventory, your cars. You know, you need to watch your employees, because unfortunately, some employees will steal from you. It's just part of the business. But, you know, these are some of the things that you can avoid if you get a second set of eyes and you have somebody else watching out for your interests. So don't be stubborn. Get somebody that you can, like I said, start training today. Even if you don't have a lot of money to give them, it's nice to have somebody else, because the one thing you don't want to have happen, and what happened to me, is I never took vacations. And I actually was in a car accident. I was only out for like 2 days. But for those 2 days, I controlled everything. I was the funnel. I was the reason why my business was stopping. So my sales guys were trying to do their best to still sell cars, but I gave them the calls. I knew what I was into the cars. I knew what was the go, what was the no. And I really screwed my business because I took everything out of their hands. Now I gave them the power to make some decisions. I trained proper people. I got really good managers to put in place to make calls that I trust. So if I'm not there, I trust their judgment. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing to make sure you don't lose money and all the things fall through the cracks. But great question nonetheless. Okay guys, thank you guys so much for watching the whole video. Once again, if you haven't subscribed, please do again. Last time we're gonna bug you, hit the notification bell, definitely give it a thumbs up if you feel like you've learned something. If you wanna message me, put it down in the comments. I will reply to every single one. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at automotive.life. This weekend from September 28th to October 6th, I will be in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're in that area, go ahead and reach out to me on Instagram or YouTube. Come say hi. I'll be out there training a few dealers and doing some stuff there. And I'm hoping I'm going to try to get on the show VinWiki. If you haven't seen it before, it's a great show. Ed, if you're watching, I love your show. I'm going to send you a message right after I finish this video. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.